Good morning. I'm Steve Weber, and I am the host of the American Gumption Morning Show. And welcome to a new broadcast week. I know it's Tuesday. I took off yesterday, and so that's maybe becoming a little bit of a routine. We'll figure this out. But 2 weeks ago, I took off that Monday, and then I had 4 shows that week and 5 shows last week. And I've got the same kind of a routine going. I got 4 guests scheduled this week and, do 5 shows next week. And so this isn't necessarily something I'm going to do 5 days a week, every week. And what the other thing is, we'll probably add in like a best of show or some kind of a compilation show and broadcast those on the days off. But I just haven't gotten around to that yet. So we just go silent for a day. That's the way it's been. That's the way we roll here at the American Gumption Morning Show. We're figuring it out as we go along. All righty. So today is show number 53. It's Tuesday, October 20th. And as I said, we've got 4 very good shows coming up this week. Got great guests, very diverse in terms of what people are going to talk about. And so it's going to be fun. So today I'm going to welcome Kirsten Tynan, and she is the executive director of FIJA. And FIJA stands for the Fully Informed Jury Association. And so I won't say anything more than that right at the moment, other than to say that she'll be coming up and she's going to tell us what the mission and purpose is. But the hint is that if you ever have to do jury duty, you want to make sure you know what the Fully Informed Jury Association is all about prior to serving, just so you can do a more effective job as a juror. All right, or as a jurist. All righty. And then I've got a monologue, and I'm going to talk about the American Gumption future vision. And it has to do with my backdrop, my changing backdrop. Last week, my friend Tamara Fleming came on, or actually we just had a call, and she started discussing the backdrop, and the next thing you know, I'm moving things around and changing everything. And so anyway, I'm going to tell you what that's all about. And it's still a work in progress, but we'll fill you in. And tentatively, she is scheduled to come a week from Wednesday. So a week from tomorrow, she should be joining us here on the American Gumption Morning Show. That is a show you'll definitely want to catch. All righty. So that's the monologue, the American Gumption future visions. I'll just talk a little bit about my thinking as I'm rearranging the backdrop and show you some slides and some images that I've created. All righty. Now tomorrow, Heather Holmes will return to the American Gumption Morning Show, and we are going to do a deep dive into the technology behind her company, P2 Probiotics. And it's basically a cleaning product, cleaning for your work area, your kitchen, bathroom counters, anywhere that, grime and bacteria grows. She's got a cleaning product, but she also has products that can be used right on your body. So we're gonna get into the technology. The first time she was here a couple of weeks ago, we talked kind of just the whole backstory and how the whole organization came about and what the technology was in general terms. But so tomorrow will be a little more of a technical, I'll have to put my science hat on. Remember my chemistry from a few years ago. All righty. And then on Thursday, Scott Stanfield returns, and Scott is going to continue talking about the 8 pillars of being a modern longevitarian. So that's going to be fun. He last time he was here, he talked about sleep and the importance of sleep, and then the importance of food. And so he's going to talk about the other 6 pillars that we haven't touched on yet. That'll be on Thursday. So actually, I said that every show was there's a lot of connection between Wednesday and Thursday because they're both about health. Health for you. One more on the exterior and one more on the interior. So it's all good. And then Friday, we're going to switch gears, and Brian Gregory is going to join us. Now, Brian is his business is called Admanity, and that's advertising plus humanity. So the ad for advertising and manity for humanity. And he has created an online course, or not an online test that you can take, true and false questions, and it ends up giving you an analysis of what your business is and what type of message you should be using in your advertising. And so this is designed for small businesses who want to be more effective at communicating what it is they do. And he's been in the advertising business for years and years. I've known Brian for about 4 or 5 years now. We talked about some projects that we were going to do together. That never came about, but we're continue to, it's the type of thing that, you meet somebody and you just connect with them and you're going to do something someday and you're just kind of waiting for it. So anyway, he's going to come on and be a guest. That's going to be on Friday. So again, tomorrow, Heather Holmes, P2 Probiotics. Thursday, Scott Stanfield, the modern longevitarian. And on Friday, Brian Gregory, the Adminity. All righty. So that's it for the announcements. Wait, I said today is my first day back. Wait, but it's not Monday. It's Tuesday. So that must mean... Yep, it's Tuesday. Simple motivation. A simple guy, Brandon Schaefer. Welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show. What do you have for us this week, Brandon?
Oh, Steve, man, thank you so much for having me on. This is one of the highlights of the week, as you know, and I'm excited to hear later on in the week that Admanity guy, Brian, or I'm going to have to jump back on for that one because that sounds really interesting. But what I'm thinking about right now is I'm thinking about, is it a rejection or is it an objection? Is it a rejection or is it an objection? And there's a big difference, right? So just because someone says, hey, I don't want to do that with you, if you just walk away, you're never going to get to the next level. What you need to do is understand that their rejection may just in fact be a small objection that is set for you to overcome, such as in pricing. If a customer says, hey, I'm not ready to do that, that's not a rejection. That means your offer on the table is not good enough for them to take action at that moment in time. So don't take a rejection and just walk away. Take every rejection and handle it as an objection that you can overcome. And the way you get to that is through practice and practice and practice. So that's all I have for today, Steve. I hope you get something from that. I know it's short and sweet, but man, that is a powerful message.
You've been in sales for how many years? 20 years?
Oh my goodness, since I was 10 years old. I'm 46, whatever that is, 36 years, way too long.
You have to have thick skin if you're going to be in the game of sales, and you have to not take things personal as a rejection. You just have to kind of reframe it and go, all right, what's the real issue here? Exactly.
And when one door closes, 5 doors open. I assure you. But the one thing is, you need to keep moving forward. I say it all the time. My wife always yells at me. She says, all you talk about is action, action, action. But energy creates energy. Action creates action. So go do it.
Hey, one last thing. People are saying, how come you only let Brian have like 2 minutes? Or Brandon have 2 minutes?
Yeah.
What's the deal with that? And so I thought, hey, maybe we could have you come back and join us for a longer session sometime.
Anytime, Steve. And anytime. The thing is, I'm like a fireworks show. So you may not want to see me longer than 2 minutes, but we will do our best.
All righty, man. Have a great week. Thanks for coming in.
I love you. I'll talk to you soon, man. Bye.
Yes, and I called Brian, and I was thinking of Brian coming up on Friday, so bad me, but hey, that's the way. That's not a rejection of Brandon. That's just a misstatement by Steve. Alrighty, so Brandon's business. Oh my gosh, I forgot to put the correct banner up there. Let's throw it up there right now. SimpleBusinessHelp.com. That's where you can find Brandon. Brandon's business is to help people with their technology. He's got a team of people. And if you have an email system and you have an accounting system and they don't talk and communicate with each other, that's the kind of stuff that Brandon does for small businesses. He helps people connect the dots, not necessarily small businesses like a 1 or 2 man operation, but not your Fortune 500 companies. So anyway, if you have technology that's not talking to, systems aren't talking to each other and communicating well, then you want to reach out to Brandon, SimpleBusinessHelp.com. All righty, that is so that's our simple motivation segment for the week from Brandon. Thank you so much. We appreciate your coming by, and yes, we are going to get Brandon to come here and join us for a longer segment. We'll talk about that simple business help that he provides, among other things. He's really a fun guy, and I'm grateful that he's my friend. Alrighty, so now let's shift gears and let's get into today's monologue. And I want to continue what I did talk a little bit about last week. So last Monday, a week ago, I had a meeting with Tamara Fleming, my friend and coach and mentor. And Tamara, her business is helping people to redesign their space and place to make it a more powerful statement about where they're going in the future. So in other words, she helps people look at what they have in their house and what they surround themselves with, and what story that stuff is telling. And so she helps people think about what story people want to tell, and then helps them rearrange the environment that they're immediately surrounded in and make sure it's conveying the story they wanted. So we had our little meeting, and our little, we took care of what we needed to do. And then she said, hey, let's talk about your backdrop. And so I, of course, when I started the morning show, 53 episodes ago, beginning of August, I ended up just kind of throwing some things up on the shelf and rearranging things a bit. And I thought, okay, it tells the story of my life, so to speak. And so anyway, last week she said, what's that down right here below? Whoops, right over here. And I said, oh, that's the shoe. And she goes, oh, put that on the shelf up there. Whoops, I keep going backwards. Put that up on the shelf there. And and the chocolate box was down there too. And so anyway, long story short, we ended up tearing the whole thing apart and rearranging things. Not really tearing it apart, but we did rearrange things. And so anyway, and the reason being is that we wanted to look at each particular item and make sure it was telling some kind of a consistent story that I wanted to share, and that story was helping to take me into my future and powerfully, subconsciously create the future and vision that I want. So as you look, I keep going backwards. Up in this corner, this is the Gumption corner. And so the 3 principles of Gumption are the feather, and the feather is in the shoe, and then the chocolate box. So the feather represents the opportunities that float into your life. The chocolate box right there represents the choices that you make, and the shoe is the journey of life. And so I thought, okay, good. This makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And now they all got placed together, and they were kind of scattered around. And so then I decided, well, let's keep the picture of Mr. Hanks as Forrest Gump there. That's kind of a nice little representation of it. And of course, this represents my past in terms of what I did for the Bubba Gump Shrimp Restaurant. And it also represents how I ended up developing the whole message of Gumption, and then the life lessons from the movie. Okay, great. And so then up in this corner here was the Montana flag, or not the flag, but the state. And it was a piece of artwork, big piece of sheet metal, beautiful, beautiful, nice piece of artwork, something you hang on the wall. And I just put it up on the shelf there. And I thought, oh, that represents Montana. And she said, she asked me, does that represent what you want? And I'm like, oh, well, that tells exactly how I got here. She goes, I know, but does it represent where you're going? And I was like, So after a minute or so of hemming and hawing, I went, nah, get out of it, take it away. So anyway, Montana disappeared. Now, it doesn't mean Montana is gone. It just means that it's not part of this immediate backdrop and the story that I'm telling. And so then there was also Wilson. Wilson was sitting up there, right up there. And I thought, yeah, Wilson, yeah. People keep saying, oh man, you must be some kind of a Tom Hanks super freak. And I'm like, not really. I just liked the movie and I liked Wilson, and and so anyway, it's like, well, Wilson was kind of telling Wilson was like, am I Tom Hanks super freak? No, I mean, I like this, but my message is based on one of his movies. It's not based on his body of work, and it's not certainly based on him as an individual. So it's like, well, okay. So Wilson, love Wilson. Wilson got moved up a couple of shelves, and so you can't see him here anymore. But I like Wilson. All righty, and then brought out a suitcase, and then I'm not sure if here it is. I'm not sure if the Wheaties box that I am on there will stay or not stay, but for now I didn't have any better, so that's still there for right now. And then right next to that, there's Mao Zedong, the ping pong paddle, and that might get moved up to that side right there. Figuring this all out, and this little cool miniature suitcase here. Is kind of neat, and so that can stay. And the Gumption headquarters was something I made up years and years ago, and so initially I thought, oh, that could be right, front and center, but it's really American Gumption. It's not Gumption headquarters, and so anyway, for that now that's right down there. So that's the that's how it got rearranged, and that's the thinking. Now this, I forgot to mention that. Okay, this. All right, This here is one of the old suitcases, and you can see that it's just the side of the suitcase. The suitcase was completely falling apart, and it just was like not worth carrying around anymore. And it was the suitcase I used for years and years and years and years. And so I ended up just salvaging this one side of the suitcase, and I thought, I could maybe put some things on it or something like that. So for now, the suitcase just represents what the future. That's like American Gumption, but I don't have anything to put on it yet. Now, I've been thinking about what to put on it, so I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to show you some things I've made up. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, so this is something I made up, gosh, back in the spring, way before the American Gumption morning show started. And this was kind of the original idea of like, okay, I'm getting in the van, I'm driving around, or the RV, I'm driving around the country, and I'm interviewing people, and I have all these sponsors. And so I don't have the sponsors today. I have several that I'm working on and believe will come to fruition. But for right now, it's just the different Gumption brands. There's the American Gumption member site, the Speaking Gump web original site, Technology Gumption, Bench Gumption, Quantum Gumption. So anyway, that I thought, okay, well, let's put that up. And so what I've done is I put these up as my screensaver on monitor number 2. And so I have 4 pictures, and now they're rotating on monitor number 2. And the idea is that if I surround myself with images and visuals of what I want and to create, they'll be like subconsciously coming in at me. So this is kind of the thinking, and the idea of this shelf up here is that some of these things could get put up there, but I don't have them to put there right today, and I'm not sure what they are. So these are kind of an idea of what they could be. Now, the next slide I want to show you is I have my American Gumption logo, but I wanted to, like, I had the idea of, I seen this picture before, American flag, and, representing the whole country, and American Gumption I threw up on top. And then I'm looking at it, and it seemed a little bit, it seemed a little bit naked. So I thought, oh, let's add the ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives, the tagline of the American Gumption Morning Show and the American Gumption Project. And I thought, oh, let's throw that on there because I had that nice white line that it fit in perfectly. So now I'm just sitting there looking at it, and I had divine inspiration, and I threw up "We the People." Obviously, our declaration, the famous beginning words. And so I thought, okay, I like that, because really it's about the whole country. It's about the people in the country. It's about the individuals. And so I just kind of liked the way that fit in there. So okay, great. So I make that up. And then I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. I like that. And so I thought, oh, and I'm imagining maybe printing that out and putting that up behind me. I'm not 100% sure at the time that I'm creating this. So then the next thing was, I said, I'm going to create with the maps. I'm going to put the maps up there, and or the states. And because I want to see where I'm going. And I love that. I love the whole, like this represents the whole country beautifully with the flag and the outline of, the 48 continental U.S. states. But this one here shows the actual states on it, and it shows some major highways going crisscrossing. And I'm thinking, hey, I need to get my way around it. So I wanted to be able to focus in on certain places, and that the U.S. the flag United States part, that didn't really show me specifics. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to create this. Now, this is strictly for myself, my own, like I want to see these places, because I'm thinking, oh, maybe I'll be here. Maybe I'll be moving from here to here, traveling around. And anyway, I left "We the People" and ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives. Those words were still there after I deleted the original flag map, and I put this one up there, and I went, oh. And so I ended up adding "We the People" right underneath the Gumption part, up above the Great Lakes there, just to the west of Maine. And then I just threw the ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives down at the bottom. Didn't want to necessarily throw them on the map itself, because that would have just been cluttered up with state names and that sort of thing. All righty. So then that was done. So then I had the next idea, and I thought, I want to see people, because it's ordinary individuals. I want to see individuals. And I decided I was going to show couples, because that's really what people my age are traveling around. That's kind of like, I'm a little bit of the oddball, but hey, that's okay. And I thought, this is what people are. We want to see people happy. We want to see them in love. We want to see them in love with life. And so I just went and searched out some images and found them and put this little collage together. And again, left "We the People" there, and ordinary individuals living extraordinary lives down at the bottom. And some of the, I like the, if you look at the upper left, the couple sitting on the bench and the mountain, the bench, the mountain, that kind of seemed nice to me. In the middle, you see couples, on the beach or near the water. That's a pretty nice place. Over in the lower right-hand corner, you have a couple cooking. I've been preparing my meals. I'm ready to cook. And then down in the lower left corner, it looks like some kind of a yoga or people, exercising both their mind and their bodies. And so I like that. And then just the other images are very nice too. So that's it. Now I'll get rid of this. And here you see this is the actual screensaver, and this rotates every 5 minutes. So right now it just happens to be on the bus there. So that's the backdrop, and that's what I've been looking at myself the last couple of days. And it's kind of fun, because I feel like using the words of Tamara. It's like, hey, you can create your future by just putting the images, or let the images help pull you into the future, and so that's sort of what I'm thinking about with all of this, and so now I've got these images rotating, and it just changed. It's off screen now, but my monitor number 2 just changed. Alrighty, well, that's today's monologue, and I'm calling that the American Gumption Future Vision. So I'm sure I'll do another follow-up on that in the future, but for right now, that's that. All righty. Well, let's shift gears. Let's see if we can put up a different banner here that shows who our guest is going to be. Let's see here. Yeah. Look at that. FIJA, the Fully Informed Jury Association, FIJA.org. All righty. Our guest is back in the green room. She looks like she's ready to go. Let's welcome Kirsten C. Tynan to the American Gumption Morning Show. Kirsten, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Kirsten, it's Kirsten. I know that.
It's not. It's Kirsten.
Kirsten. Okay.
I always got to nip it in the bud because otherwise it will become a thing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, good. Well, welcome. We've known each other for a couple of years. Our connection is in Montana, is how we met. But it turned out that what you were doing and what I was doing, we just had a little bit of, synergy in terms of just kind of supporting and cheering each other on. So that's how we became friends.
Indeed.
And I have a little bio that I've created. I'd like to read and welcome you. And then we have a special thing we do for any time a person is the first time guest on the show. We have the first time guest theme song that we play to welcome them. So if you'll let me, I'll just read the bio and then and the intro, and then I'll play the theme song, and then we'll get into FIJA and what you're doing. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
All righty. So for the last 12 plus years, Kirsten has been involved with FIJA. FIJA is the Fully Informed Jury Association. She has served as the executive director since 2014. In that role, Kirsten works with volunteers, other organizations, and the media to support and expand FIJA's educational outreach efforts to inform everyone of the traditional legal authority of jurors to protect human rights by refusing to enforce unjust or unjustly applied laws. That's a mouthful, and we're going to let you explain all that in just a minute. So, but her path to FIJA is anything but normal. She isn't a lawyer. In fact, she's a mechanical engineer, and for the first 12 years after graduation from the University of Arizona, Kirsten worked for large corporations in the industrial military complex as a reliability engineer. That is a very funny path that you found yourself taking, isn't it?
Indeed.
She found herself at a crossroads 12 years ago and went to Montana on a sabbatical. The call of the mountains and her own realization that she was a misfit in corporate America led her to FIJA. I met Kirsten a few years ago in Hamilton, Montana through the Toastmasters organization. Since we both have a certain amount of misfit in each of us, we became fast friends. Kirsten, welcome to the American Gumption Morning Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. So as I said, we have a one-time theme that we like to play. If you ever come back as a guest, you'll never
forget it
again. So let's just go ahead and let's roll with it. Have you ever had a marching band welcome you? You do a lot of media.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a marching band welcoming you to the show? No. Okay.
That is a first for me. And apparently my only option, the only time that'll happen. So,
everybody gets it once, but that's it. It
was quite rousing.
Well, good. Well, the American Gumption theme is, I love this country, and so it reminds me of when my high school marching band days, and so I just thought that was a fun way to welcome people. So anyway, we're glad you're here. you kind of did what traditional people do. You go to college and then you go and you get a job in corporate America, and you're working for, a dozen years as a systems reliability engineer for these large conglomerate companies that are making stuff, and you're doing whatever you're doing. And then at some point you go, you know what, I'm going to take a little break and go to Montana and take a rest. But tell us about before we get into, everything that happened, just tell us about those first 12 years after college and what you were, experiencing.
Well, I noticed at one point when I was in a performance review, I was basically told to have patience with nonsense. And I thought to myself in that moment, I don't belong here. And I got a lot of other messages along those lines and realized pretty quickly that this was not a good fit for me. To me, the reason I became an engineer was to improve things, not to stagnate in, doing things for reasons that don't make sense anymore. So I spent that time basically in corporate America in a cubicle. If you think of the Dilbert cartoon, that was basically it. And making products that I wasn't particularly interested in. But, it was great pay, had benefits. There's something to be said for all that. But after a while, it was just not really worth it anymore. So I started figuring out how I was going to make a change. I had lived in Arizona my whole life and wanted to get out of there. People often ask me why I moved to Montana. And one of the big reasons is I want to appreciate a sunny day instead of dreading it. And to that I say mission accomplished.
All righty. Yeah. So you something happens where you just go, okay, I can't take this any longer. I'm going to Montana. That's fine and dandy. What was it like for you when you get to Montana, and what was your plan at that point in time?
So I had quit my job without having another job lined up, but I did have some savings. So my intention was always to get another job in engineering, and I might do that again someday. But in this particular case, I thought, well, I had my creativity had stagnated. The company I was working for wasn't training me in new skills like they should have been. So I really wanted to just kind of refresh myself. And I had seen a TED Talk, and I should have looked up who the fellow was who gave it. So bad me for not doing that. But it was a wonderful TED Talk where a designer who owned his own design company pointed out that we basically give our best years to some company in our work life, and then we reserve our twilight years for our own self, for our own learning, our own interests, our own enjoyment. And he thought, what if we steal the first 5 years from retirement and intersperse those as 1-year sabbaticals in our work life? And he discovered by doing that the work products from his company improved greatly. Without the sabbaticals, he found that their designs tended to be repetitive and just kind of recycling old ideas. But by interspersing these sabbaticals, he found that they were getting fresh new ideas. And in the next work cycle, we're having a lot better product and could charge higher prices, as he pointed out. So
you felt like, you were just going to take a little bit of a break. You weren't 100% sure what, but this idea of a sabbatical and doing something different, like really, spoke to you, and you said, I'm just going to follow my heart. I'm going to do this and see where. So what happens then? You get to Montana, and what are you doing?
So I thought, okay, if I'm going to have a productive sabbatical, that probably isn't sitting around in my pajamas eating Cheetos, watching cat videos on YouTube. So I thought I need to make a plan, and I decided on some projects I wanted to do just for my own fun. I thought about what new skills I wanted to work on and how I might get that going. And one of the big things I wanted to do for sure was volunteering. So at the time, I lived in this little tourist town in the middle of nowhere in Montana called Phillipsburg that was a couple hours away from a big city in one direction and an hour and a half away from a big city in the other direction. But one day a week, I was volunteering at a food pantry in Missoula, and another one day a week to start, I was volunteering with the Fully Informed Jury Association in Helena because the previous director was a friend of mine. So seemed like at the time I knew what FIJA was about. I understood, the principles of what we taught, but wasn't particularly invested. But the more I worked there, and I started as a volunteer and eventually ended up working part-time and then full-time, and then got my current position after that. But as I kind of worked on it, I realized that I had undervalued the principles being taught and the rights that we were working to protect, and learned so much more about how important this thing that we're all poo-pooing and trying to get out of really is.
Yeah. So, sometimes people go off in search of what they're looking for because they know what they're looking for. And other times, people just end up finding something or it finds them. And this really feels like one of those stories of this finding you more than you finding it.
That would be a good description. Like I said, I'd always intended to just get another job in engineering, but I wasn't in a hurry. So I thought, well, I'll look and see what's really a good fit for me. Maybe a smaller engineering firm rather than cubicle land. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, I was like working on this kind of side thing and really got into it quite a bit.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what it is. And before we even mention what it is, we need to address the idea that here you are out in Montana, not necessarily a big legal area. A lot of lawyers aren't hanging out there. So how does the Fully Informed Jury Association come to be headquartered and based out of like Montana in these small towns? What happened?
So the organization was actually founded back in the 1980s when I was still in high school by two people from Montana. While we're a strictly educational, nonpartisan organization, the idea was actually rooted in a libertarian national convention where two of the folks who lived in Montana but were attending the convention heard someone give a speech on our topic, which is jury nullification, that we'll talk about a little later. And they thought, wow, this is a really good idea. This is a right we still have, but almost nobody knows about it. Maybe we can do something about that. There was no particular reason to headquarter it in Montana, except for the fact that the people who started it happen to live here. So Montana has been the home of the Fully Informed Jury Association headquarters since it started, I believe, in 1989.
So the founders are at this libertarian convention. Were they attorneys themselves? Did they have any kind of a legal or law background?
That's a good question. One of them, I don't think had a background in law, but in policy. He had worked for, I believe, the Cato Institute for a while and done some other things. The other one, I don't recall specifically. I would have to look that up. He passed away. He had left the country before I even started working with FIJA, and then passed away some years ago. So I didn't really know that much about that particular person.
All righty. So let's kind of fast forward up to today, or at least the last couple of years. You've been the executive director of the organization since 2014. What are you doing on a day in and day out basis? I mean, what does your job look like?
So, of course, with the pandemic, things changed a lot this year. Sort of the bread and butter volunteer activity up until this year had been handing out FIJA educational brochures at courthouses. So a lot of people going in and out of courthouses would include, most of the time, jurors. And so this information that we're trying to teach jurors, because they won't learn about it once they're in the courthouse, would get into their hands. I have to say, I would say in the last 7 to 8 months, there have been almost no jury trials anywhere in the United States, which I should say should alarm all of us.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, and the fact that people really don't want strangers approaching them right now, that activity has been curtailed quite a bit. So we've shifted gears and sort of shifted into the new millennium with a lot of digital activities. So, for instance, we have online virtual reading groups that we're running. We do a lot of outreach on social media. I have a weekly 15 minutes with FIJA Zoom session where we just do a very quick and efficient starting on time, ending on time, update on the week's news, which there is quite a bit of right now because there is a lot of litigation either starting or about to start regarding people who've been essentially held in indefinite detention because they can't get their jury trial, but also the courts are refusing to release them on bail. So you can see how that would be a big problem from a constitutional and human rights perspective. So there's a lot of updates going on in that regard. We also have virtual speakers who, if people want to have someone speak to their organization, they can either host a speaker online or we can help them with that by kind of hosting a Zoom meeting that they then broadcast or have their members join. So we have a lot of things like that going on. I also do a lot of research that is being presented as quickly as I can on the website. I'm our only full-time staff person, and our only other paid staff is a very, 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 very part-time accountant who processes our donations. But I do a lot of research on, for instance, when legislative sessions are in progress, what laws are being proposed to be changed as far as jury rights, what is passing, what is failing, that sort of thing. Do a lot of just general writing of information for people to read that we publish on Quora, on our website, on social media, that sort of thing. Do a lot of interviews. So we have a lot of different avenues to kind of get the word out about what we want people to learn before they enter a courthouse.
So people go into and you said this, you hinted at it. I want to highlight one particular thing you said kind of at the beginning, and that's that when people go into the courthouse as a juror, there is information that they will not learn about. Mm-hmm. And that is what you're talking about. What mm-hmm. exactly is that information that is being kept silent by the by, I guess, the judge, by the prosecution, and by the defense? Why is it that no one wants to talk about what it is that you are talking about? And what is it you're talking about?
So the great secret of the American jury system is that if you are serving on a jury and you believe the prosecution has proved beyond reasonable doubt that the accused has committed the offense that they are accused of, you do not have to vote guilty. That is an option, but it is not required, and you cannot get in trouble for voting not guilty. So normally in jury instructions, you will be told, if the case has been proved beyond reasonable doubt, you should, or we're more frequently seeing must language, vote guilty. If the case has not been proved beyond a reasonable doubt, you must vote not guilty. Those are the two options most people are familiar with. But this third option, known most commonly as jury nullification, but also by other names, is that you can still vote not guilty even if you believe that the law was broken and that was proved beyond reasonable doubt. And there are a number of different reasons people might want to do this. For some, they just think that the law that the person is accused of breaking is outright wrong. A big category of this, we see a lot of legislation right now going on regarding medical and recreational marijuana, but that is driven in no small part by jurors who are refusing to convict people for violating those laws just by simple possession or use without harming anyone else. Other times people think, well, this is a good law, but it's kind of really being twisted how it's being applied. And in the case at hand, it's not just to enforce it. Another reason people may not want to convict someone is that while they think that the law is generally good in that you shouldn't do X, Y, or Z, they think that the penalty for breaking that law is unjustly harsh. So a great example of this from history is in England. There was an era known as the Bloody Code era, where almost every criminal offense had one punishment only, and that was execution. So if you look in the records of the Old Bailey, which are online now, you will see many cases, just I'll translate this or make an analogous example in American currency, where, for example, someone maybe stole $25 and the jury finds them guilty of stealing $19 because if you stole $20 or more, you'd be executed. And they thought, you shouldn't have stolen that, but I also don't think we should kill you over it. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of cases of jury nullification in that era because people simply didn't want to impose the death penalty. And I actually have another great, you're in Pennsylvania, so I have another great example from American history. This book is called The Trials of Allegiance by Carlton F.W. Larson, and it documents a series of jury nullification cases in Philadelphia that took place in the midst of the American Revolution. The war is going on. People are being accused of treason, and they're holding trials by jury to deal with this. And of course, the penalty for treason at that time was death. So what this professor learned when he looked into the details is there were a lot of people on these juries who thought, okay, you weren't, trying to actively undermine something and, be some sort of nefarious person who is trying to undermine our cause so much as it's a political situation. You just want to survive. You're not necessarily invested in either side. You just want your family to be in with the other side.
Whoops, we've frozen up. Hopefully, Kirsten will return with us. And there she is.
I think I'm back.
Okay, good. All right.
I'm even wired in and have no other tabs open. So it's the best Montana's internet can do, I guess.
Well, good. Everything had been sounding perfect up until then. We had a really clear broadcast all day. So, well, very good. So, in the last few minutes, let's kind of put a bow around some of these things and make sure that we understand, what it is you guys are doing and how you're helping people. And I have one question. Why is it that I could certainly understand where the prosecution does not want to let a juror know that you don't have to convict if you feel like the law is unjust or if the law is being unjustly applied in this particular case. But why wouldn't the defense use that and educate jurors? And why wouldn't the judge bring that out? Because the judge is supposed to place all the cards on the table fairly.
So one thing that most people don't know, and that the Cato Institute a few months back released an amazing report on, is that judges in the United States overwhelmingly come from the ranks of prosecutors. So the idea that they are actually objective third parties, not on either side, is more of a myth than reality in practice. And overwhelmingly, you will find them coming from the ranks of prosecutors and tilting the playing field toward the ranks of prosecutors. That's really interesting to me because if you look at American history, the playing field in the courtroom was indeed intended to be tilted. It was never meant to be a level playing field, but it was intended to tilt to err on the side of liberty, not to err on the side of locking people up and letting government run rampant. So The playing field is indeed tilted today, but it has tilted in the wrong direction. The reason defense attorneys generally don't discuss this is because they can be held in contempt of court and they could lose their license, even though this concept is perfectly legal. And many judges will even tell you that, including the late Antonin Scalia of the United States Supreme Court and current Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Think about that, two politically rather diverse individuals.
Yep.
Both have spoken on the legality of jury nullification. So it's totally legal, but the courts don't want you to know about them, and judges have the ability to prevent that from being spoken of in many of their courtrooms. I will say we do have one defense attorney who is a Georgia state representative for us, Catherine Bernard, who has been successful wildly as far as this sort of thing goes. She has won at least 2 simple possession of marijuana cases by jury nullification, because Georgia is one of the few states that explicitly codified this in their constitution. And she brings it up in court and the judge tries to shut her up, but she has successfully managed to point out to the jury what their constitutional right is. And they have exercised it, but it's very, very difficult and very, very rare for defense attorneys to be able to speak of this openly in court. And that's why the Fully Informed Jury Association exists. You're either going to be not told about it in court, or you're going to be lied to about it in court. So the only way you're going to get accurate information is if you walk in knowing it before you get there.
If people are called for jury duty, there's not going to be someone outside of the courthouse these days handing them a pamphlet, so they can go to the FIJA.org website, and you have information that will help people learn about this. Is that correct?
Absolutely. If you go to our homepage under resources, you will see, I think, 6 boxes where I'm slowly building up the information we offer. And the very first one, the most important one, is called for jury duty. And it walks you through the steps of what you need to know and how you need to kind of behave to successfully get on a jury and exercise that right if that is required for a just verdict.
And that information is available for free. It's there. You can go access it and download some things, or at least access information.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
And I'll just quickly add, we're working on some training to give people some live practice on how to get through jury selection and how to deal with deliberation so that you're really well prepared. So we'll be rolling that out probably early next year.
Very good. Are you, and then you have also a tab for, like, if people want to get involved and actually help share this message, you have some type of a speakers bureau, or at least a place that people can, use their voice. Tell us about that.
So our speakers bureau is people who are pre-screened and who have prepared talks on the basics of jury nullification, as well as more advanced related jury issues. I've kind of checked them out to make sure that the information they're giving is accurate and that they're going to give a decent presentation that has been prepared ahead of time and whatnot. And if you would like to have one of these people speak to your group, right now it'd be very difficult to do an in-person talk, but we are prepared to do, I think all of our speakers can probably do a virtual presentation by way of Zoom or other remote technology. If you aren't able to host a Zoom meeting, I am happy to host that, so long as you can broadcast that in some way to your members, either by having them join from their own homes, or if you are meeting in person, if you can project it on a wall and have audio and whatnot. So
are these speakers attorneys, or are they people like yourself who are interested in sharing this message, or both?
So right now we have me, we have one of my board members who is not an attorney. We have Catherine Bernard, who I mentioned previously as a defense attorney. And we have Nathan Goodman, who is working on his PhD. So while not an attorney, is very well versed in the academic aspects that he speaks on. So quite a variety there. And
Great.
yeah.
And I know that you also have a weekly 15-minute Zoom session for people who are interested in this topic, who just want to, check in and you share information. When does that take place?
So Monday evenings at 6:30 p.m. Mountain. So I believe that makes it 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific.
Yep.
We start on time. We end on time. You get 15 minutes of me just cranking out the information on jury-related news, and then I usually spend about 2 minutes highlighting one FIJA volunteer or event or program or resource just to help you understand the full breadth of what we offer. And then you are either out of there if that was good for you, you don't have any questions. 15 minutes, we get you in on time, we get you out on time. Optionally, if you have a question, I'm happy to stick around for another 15 minutes, but hopefully as a testimony to my clarity, I have so far not had more than 2 minutes worth of questions. So we're getting everyone in and out in less than 20 minutes once a week. So.
Well, that's great. And then finally, I want to make sure that people know that you are a nonprofit and that any donation would be appreciated, and just go to FIJA.org to find, and I've been there. The tab to donate is nice and clear, so that's
good.
Fine. Yeah. So donations are welcome. Well, this is great. I appreciate the work you're doing, and it's something that I remember when we had this conversation over lunch a couple of years ago. I was kind of dumbfounded because I just didn't even I just had no idea anything like this existed, and I felt rather. You think a little bit about the basics, but Perry Mason never explained this to us. So the amount of my legal understanding was, I missed it.
I will say I am encouraged that the current jury-related primetime drama Bull has had a couple of jury nullification episodes in previous seasons. So that is something at least.
Well, great.
I will say, if anyone knows anyone on the production crew of Bull or whatever, please have them hit me up for props or whatever. We'd be happy to provide T-shirts, jury materials, whatever, if they want to incorporate this into a show.
That sounds like that would be great. So all you need is a couple of maybe it's the American Gumption show that's going to finally help you guys break through.
That would be awesome. I really don't know how Hollywood works.
Well, Kirsten, this has been great having you this morning. I want to thank you for the work you're doing. I love the story of how you started out like all of us, or like many of us, where you kind of go down the traditional corporate path, and then one day you go, this doesn't make any sense. And you said that your performance review was you're impatient with dealing with nonsense.
Yeah, I was instructed to have more patience with nonsense.
Yeah, that's that's really sad that these large organizations just have nonsense built in as part of the way they function. And people who are misfits like you and I, we do not have much patience with nonsense, do we?
No, we do not suffer fools lightly, do we?
Well, I appreciate your, taking the time this morning to do this, and keep up the great work. You've been working hard at it, I know, for the last several years, and really you're doing special work. You're doing it not because, you're enriching yourself. You're doing it because you're enriching our country and our system of laws. And so this is an important thing. And so I really want to just say thank you for what you're doing, and keep up the hard work. And I want to encourage people to go and support what Kirsten's doing.
Thank you so much for having me and helping get the word out, Steve. I really appreciate it. And I know you are also a big fan of our country, so it's very helpful to have someone like you on board.
Yeah, no, we have to, there's a lot of crazy things that are occurring, and, I'm not going to get into the.
It's another show.
No, I don't want to get into that, but it's frightening that it feels like in some ways that things are hanging in the balance, and the law, the rule of law is sometimes being, roughshod over. So you are very good at educating us about what the issue is. I thank you for joining us, and we're going to have to bring you back at some point to do a second version of this, just because it's such an important topic. And so keep up the great work in the meantime.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Well, that was Kirsten Tynan, FIJA.org. There it is, floating along on the website at the bottom on the banner. Please go there. Educate yourself. There's not pages, and there's actually a lot of information, but the homepage is very nicely laid out. And so you can get right to where some of the basic things. Go ahead and support them, and just educate yourself. If you get called to jury duty, you need to know what your rights are. And some of our laws are being, some of our laws aren't right. And so if you feel that way, then you have an option. So jury nullification. All righty, everybody. Well, that's it for today's show. We're 1 minute past. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Tomorrow, we welcome back Heather Holmes from P2 Probiotics. We'll do a deep dive into the technology of probiotics and the cleaning products that she makes and health products. And then Scott Stanfield, Modern Longevitarian, on Thursday, and Brian Gregory, Admanity, on Friday. All right, everybody, have a great day. We will see you tomorrow.